The night had settled over the city like a velvet shroud, softening every sound, muffling the usual hum of life beneath a blanket of calm. Inside the museum, silence wasn't just a rule. It was sacred, almost tangible, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The grand hallways, lined with centuries-old masterpieces and sculptures frozen in time, lay bathed in the cold glow of security lamps. Each step, each whisper, was recorded by an intricate web of cameras and sensors, designed to catch even the faintest disturbance. And yet, amidst this fortress of vigilance, a shadow moved with the grace of a ghost. The thief was no ordinary intruder. He was a master of his craft, a man who had spent years perfecting the art of invisibility. His movements were deliberate, precise, calculated with the cold logic of a chess grandmaster contemplating the final checkmate. Dressed head to toe in black, his face concealed beneath a mask that erased every trace of identity, he blended effortlessly into the darkness. Gloves hugged his hands tightly, ensuring not a single fingerprint would be left behind. Every breath he took was steady, controlled, as if he were part of the night itself. He had studied this museum for months. Every guard's routine, every blind spot where cameras might falter, every motion sensor's sweep. His plan was a symphony of meticulous timing and flawless execution, choreographed so perfectly that even the most advanced security systems would fail to detect him. He knew the building's heartbeat, the rhythm of the guards' patrols, the way the shadows shifted with the passing hours. Tonight, all those elements aligned perfectly. The priceless Renaissance painting he sought hung just beyond reach, a masterpiece shimmering under protective glass. It was the crown jewel of the collection, a treasure whose value transcended money, history, culture, legacy. And soon it would be in his hands. As he approached, the silence deepened, almost reverent. The world outside faded away, leaving only the sharp focus of this singular moment. Every sense heightened, the faint hum of the security system, the subtle click of his tools, the whisper of fabric against stone. His heart beat steadily, unhurried, a stark contrast to the storm of anticipation inside. But in the midst of this perfect execution, a single unnoticed detail lurked beneath his sleeve. A shadow, slight and irregular, hidden in plain sight. It was a mark he had worn for years, a symbol of power and secrecy, a serpent tattoo curling along his forearm. Tonight, that tiny detail, overlooked in the overwhelming precision of his plan, would unravel everything. The perfect heist was about to become an impossibility. As the night deepened and the city lights flickered through the rain-streaked windows, he felt the weight of that unnoticed mark more than ever. The serpent tattoo, once a silent emblem of control and confidence, now seemed to pulse with a life of its own, an unspoken warning etched onto his skin. It was ironic how something so small, so easily overlooked, could threaten to dismantle what had taken months to orchestrate. In that moment, the perfect heist wasn't just a plan. It was a fragile thread, trembling on the edge of collapse. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where the tiniest detail changed everything? Maybe it was a word left unsaid, a look that revealed more than intended, or a choice you didn't think much of until it echoed back unexpectedly. If this story resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of this twist caught you off guard, or reminded you of a moment in your own life? Sharing these moments creates a space where we all connect, learning from one another's experiences in ways that go beyond the story itself. And if you're finding value in this journey, maybe a quick like would be a small but meaningful way to keep this conversation alive. It's not just about numbers. It's about the energy and encouragement that fuels the creation of more stories like this one. When you hit that subscribe button, you're not just signing up for more content. You're joining a community that grows stronger with every shared insight and every new perspective. His mind was a fortress, guarded and unyielding, where even the smallest lapse was a betrayal of the standards he held himself to. He believed, with an unshakable certainty, that he left no traces behind. The ghost in the gallery, the shadow in the frame. His presence was a fleeting whisper, erased before it could be heard. It wasn't arrogance. It was a doctrine etched into the very core of his being. Every step was calculated to leave no imprint, every move choreographed like a dance performed in darkness. This belief in his invisibility wasn't just about eluding the law. It was about affirming his intellect, proving to himself that he was always several moves ahead, a superior player in a game others barely understood. It was a fortress built on the foundation of his mind's sharpness, one that insulated his ego and fed an ever-growing conviction. He was smarter than everyone else. The serpent tattoo curling along his forearm told a story only he fully grasped. To the outside world, it was a symbol of power, a nod to ancient myths where serpents represented wisdom, rebirth, and cunning. For him, it was a personal sigil, a constant reminder of transformation and the delicate balance between control and chaos. The serpent's sinuous form mirrored the dance he performed nightly, slipping through security systems and human defenses alike. It was not just ink on skin, but a talisman of identity, a quiet proclamation that he possessed a primal force, coiled and ready to strike with precision. Yet, beneath its veneer of strength, the tattoo harbored the seeds of his undoing. It was a symbol that tethered him to a mythic arrogance, a belief that he was untouchable, invincible. The serpent's bite is fatal, a paradox of beauty and danger, and in his mind, that bite would be delivered only to those who dared challenge him. But in reality, it was a constant reminder of the thin line he walked, the edge between mastery and vulnerability. The very emblem that fortified his ego also marked him, a subtle beacon in a world where anonymity was survival. In the quiet moments before a heist, when the adrenaline faded and the mask slipped, the tattoo's presence was a whisper of mortality, a reminder that power, no matter how fiercely claimed, always carries a shadow. This duality, his relentless pursuit of perfection and the hubris embodied by that serpent, defined him. It was the crucible in which his identity as an elite art thief was forged, a balance of calculated brilliance and the ever-present risk of unraveling. Each success bolstered his belief in his superiority, yet each mark left by that tattoo was a silent countdown, a cryptic signal that the game he played was as much against himself as it was against the world. He began by immersing himself in the daily rhythms of the museum, observing the guards with the precision of an anthropologist. From dawn's first light until closing, he noted every nuance. The way the lead guard shifted his weight while scanning the halls, the staggered timing of patrols between the east and west wings, the subtle pauses at intersections where guards exchanged brief nods. Each footstep, each breath, was a variable to be mapped and mastered. He recorded these patterns over weeks, using a discrete camera hidden in a modified pen, capturing movements that, at first glance, seemed routine but, upon analysis, revealed a choreography that he could anticipate and then exploit. Next came the challenge of the cameras. The museum's security system was a labyrinth of lenses and sensors, each overlapping field of vision designed to leave no corner unseen. He spent nights poring over blueprints obtained through a network of contacts, cross-referencing them with his own video footage. He marked camera blind spots meticulously, those fleeting pockets of shadow where the gaze faltered, where the technology's reach waned just enough to slip through unnoticed. These blind spots were rare gems, precious and fleeting, and his plan hinged on threading the needle through them with absolute timing. To internalize the spatial complexities, he constructed full-scale replicas of the museum corridors in an abandoned warehouse. Using laser measurements and detailed schematics, he reconstructed every panel, every door, every security sensor. The replicas smelled faintly of paint and dust, yet they were his sanctuary, the crucible where theory met practice. Here, he rehearsed the heist over and over, each step choreographed to the second, every movement a silent whisper of precision. He timed the rotations of the cameras on his mock walls, synchronized his movements with the guard patrols mapped onto the floor, and refined his path until it became second nature, a fluid dance in near-complete darkness. Disguise was the final layer of his preparation. He crafted an identity as carefully as a painter mixes pigments, using prosthetics and custom-tailored uniforms stolen from museum staff wardrobes. He became a ghost among the living. His face, altered just enough to evade casual recognition, was framed by a hat pulled low, and gloves masked the telltale marks of his own skin. He practiced his gait and posture to mimic the security personnel he had so carefully studied, down to the habitual glance over the shoulder. He rehearsed speaking in clipped tones, memorizing phrases and protocols to avoid suspicion if challenged. The disguise was not merely a mask but a second skin, designed to fool not only cameras but the instinctual eyes of his human adversaries. Every detail was accounted for, or so he believed. He had prepared for every conceivable contingency. Alternative routes mapped, emergency exits memorized, electronic jammers tested in the replica corridors, time to disable alarms for precisely the window he would be inside the vault. He even factored in the possibility of an unplanned encounter, rehearsing calm, deflective responses to questions or disruptions. His confidence was not arrogance, but the cold certainty born of exhaustive planning. He envisioned the heist unfolding like clockwork, each second a link in a flawless chain. Yet, beneath this veneer of control, a subtle unease lingered. Something small, almost imperceptible, had escaped his notice. An overlooked nuance in the security schedule, a sensor whose sensitivity varied with temperature, a guard's habit too faint to register in his initial observations. The slightest slip, a misread signal, or a moment's hesitation could unravel everything. It was this quiet uncertainty that shadowed his every move, a reminder that even the most meticulous plans carry the seed of chaos, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to bloom. The heavy glass doors yielded with a faint, almost reluctant creak as he slipped inside, the chill of the gallery air wrapping around him like a whispered warning. Every breath was measured, slow and deliberate, merging with the distant hum of security systems humming quietly beneath the polished marble floors. His shoes made no sound against the cold stone, each step swallowed by shadows that pooled like ink in the corners of the room. The faint scent of aged wood and varnished frames hung in the stillness, mingling with the sterile tang of the climate control. He moved as if part of the darkness itself, a ghost threading through a labyrinth designed to ensnare the careless. The soft pulse of red laser beams traced invisible lines across the space, a deadly web he had memorized and danced through countless times in his mind. The rhythm of his heartbeat was steady, but beneath it, a tension coiled tight, an electric thread straining against the silence. His gloved hand brushed lightly against the cold metal panel beside the painting. Fingers worked quickly yet with reverence, peeling away the alarm sensor with surgical precision. The faintest spark of static crackled, and the system blinked momentarily offline, as if surrendering to his quiet command. Time seemed to stretch, each second dissolving into the next with agonizing slowness. The paint on the canvas shimmered under the gallery lights, its brushstrokes whispering secrets he could almost hear. With a slender blade, he traced the edges of the frame, the sound of the cut softened by the thick velvet sleeves of his jacket. The blade bit into the heavy canvas backing, releasing the painting from its anchor with a careful, practiced grace. Every fiber of the material flexed beneath his touch, the tension in the room thickening like fog. His breath caught briefly, but his eyes remained locked on the work, a masterpiece caught in the fragile balance between preservation and theft. Behind him, a security camera pivoted slowly, its lens gleaming like an unblinking eye. In the dim light, a faint shadow shifted beneath his sleeve, a subtle flicker against the otherwise perfect darkness. The camera caught it, a silent witness to the breach, recording the imperceptible irregularity. Yet he moved on, unaware of the silent alarm being etched frame by frame into the machine's memory. The silence stretched taut, broken only by the faint scrape of fabric and the whisper of his careful movements. The air felt heavy, saturated with the weight of what was about to unravel. Viewers watching this moment would sense the invisible thread pulling taut, the fragile calm before the storm. It was as if the room itself held its breath, waiting. His hands, steady but betraying a hint of tension, lifted the painting free from the wall. The smooth glide of the canvas was a final surrender, a masterpiece liberated from its home but not yet safe. The world outside waited, unaware of the delicate fracture forming in this quiet sanctuary. The shadow beneath his sleeve remained unseen by him, a silent herald of the tragedy quietly unfolding, threading its way through the fabric of the night. The team gathered around the monitor in the dimly lit room, eyes fixed on the grainy CCTV footage captured just moments before the theft. The man's movements were fluid, calculated. A ghost slipping through the gallery's labyrinthine halls with practiced ease. Every step, every glance, every breath seemed choreographed to perfection, leaving no trace but the void where the painting once hung. As the footage played repeatedly, the lead investigator leaned closer, scrutinizing the subtle nuances of the figure's form. The lighting was unforgiving, casting long shadows that blurred details and masked identities. Yet, something caught his eye, a faint, almost imperceptible dark shape slipping from beneath the man's rolled-up sleeve. At first glance, it appeared to be nothing more than a trick of the flickering security light, a shadow cast by a passing arm. But the investigator's instincts nudged him to look deeper. He signaled to the forensic analyst, who immediately began running the footage through advanced enhancement software. Pixel by pixel, the image was reconstructed, colors sharpened, contrasts heightened. The shadow under the sleeve began to take shape, revealing the sinuous curves of an intricate tattoo. A serpent coiled tightly around the forearm, its scales shimmering faintly in the enhanced frame. The room fell silent as the team absorbed the significance. Tattoos, especially detailed and distinctive ones, could be the key to unlocking the man's identity. The serpent was no ordinary design. It was serpentine and stylized, reminiscent of ancient symbolism but modern in execution. The lead investigator tapped his fingers on the table. "We've seen this before," he muttered. They immediately cross-referenced the enhanced image with the department's extensive database of known offenders, persons of interest, and unsolved cases. The serpent tattoo emerged again, linked to a series of prior investigations, most notably a shadowy figure involved in high-stakes art theft and underground auctions. The tattoo's owner was a known operative in illicit networks, someone who had skillfully evaded capture for years. A chill ran through the room. This was no random criminal. This was a player deeply entrenched in the clandestine world of stolen treasures, a man who knew the value of precision and discretion. The serpent symbolized more than just identity. It was a mark of allegiance, a signature of a secretive syndicate that specialized in the black market art trade. The lead investigator called in for a briefing. The tattoo was their first tangible lead, a thread to pull in the tangled web of deceit. Surveillance teams were dispatched to scour the city for anyone matching the man's build and bearing the serpent tattoo. Simultaneously, cyber units began monitoring encrypted channels and underground forums where stolen art pieces frequently changed hands. As the hours passed, the investigators pieced together fragments of information. Witness reports, though vague, described a man with a distinctive forearm marking seen near locations associated with recent art smuggling. The tattoo's design was rare enough to narrow the suspect pool significantly. Every new detail added weight to the theory that the serpent bearer was the mastermind behind the gallery heist. The breakthrough reinvigorated the team. The relentless search for the thief had shifted from a shadowy guesswork to a focused manhunt. The serpent tattoo was no longer just a shadow under a sleeve. It was the beacon cutting through the darkness, illuminating a path toward justice. The investigators knew that time was critical. The stolen painting was still out there, its fate uncertain. But now, with this small yet powerful clue, the possibility of recovery and capture burned brighter than ever before. The faint hum of the computer filled the room as the footage looped once more. The man's face remained obscured, but the tattoo was unmistakable. A silent witness etched in ink, revealing a fragment of truth hidden in plain sight. The investigation had found its break, and with it, a new chapter in the pursuit of the elusive serpent. The dim glow of monitors cast long shadows across the precinct's operations room as the lead investigator leaned forward, eyes locked on the grainy footage. The tattoo, a coiled serpent winding around the man's forearm, was the key. Cross-referencing databases, social media profiles, and past arrests, the team finally landed on a name: Ethan Voss. Known for minor offenses but never linked to anything this severe, Voss had slipped through the cracks for years. Now every second mattered. Surveillance teams were mobilized swiftly. Cameras near Voss's last known locations, his usual hangouts, and even his family's modest apartment in the outskirts of the city were activated. Agents fanned out, blending into the bustling urban landscape, eyes scanning for a glimpse of the man who would become their prime target. The tension was palpable. This was no simple arrest. This was the culmination of months of dead ends and whispered rumors. Meanwhile, miles away, Ethan Voss sat in a cramped, dimly lit apartment, the air thick with a feeling he couldn't shake. His hands trembled slightly as he sipped stale coffee, eyes darting to the cracked window every few minutes. Something was wrong. The usual hum of the city outside felt heavier, as if the walls themselves were closing in. He ran a hand over the tattoo hidden beneath his sleeve, a nervous tic he couldn't control. He knew he was being watched, but how? He couldn't pinpoint the source of his paranoia, only the gnawing certainty that the net was tightening. Outside, investigators pieced together his movements with meticulous precision. Footage from a convenience store showed Voss entering at dawn, buying a bottle of water. A neighbor's security camera captured a shadow slipping into a narrow alley behind a dilapidated warehouse he frequented. Every detail was relayed back to Command Central in real time, agents coordinating their maneuvers with military precision. The city's heartbeat quickened with each passing minute. Voss tried to maintain control. He changed his routes, avoided his usual haunts, and kept conversations brief and coded. Yet the pressure was immense. His breaths came shallow, and the calm he once wore like armor was cracking. The serpent tattoo, once a silent emblem of his identity, now felt like a beacon spelling doom. He knew the police were closing in, but the question was when, and whether he would be ready. In the shadows, a plainclothes officer watched Voss from across the street, radio whispering updates to the team. The suspect paused outside a rundown diner, glancing over his shoulder. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The hum of traffic, the distant siren, even the flicker of a neon sign all faded into a tense silence. Then, as Voss moved toward the diner's entrance, agents converged. The arrest was swift. Hands grabbed him from behind, pulling him into the cold grip of law enforcement. Voss struggled, a desperate, fleeting attempt to break free, but the weight of months of pursuit crushed any hope of escape. He was cuffed, his tattooed arm exposed under the harsh glare of streetlights, a symbol of a past finally caught. As he was led away, the city exhaled, the tension dissolving into the night. The serpent thief was no longer a shadow in the dark. He was a captive, a puzzle piece finally in place, and the hunt had reached its decisive end. Yet, in the back of every investigator's mind, a question lingered. What secrets did Ethan Voss still hold, and what would unravel next? The room was suffocatingly cold, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead with a sterile hum that seemed designed to strip away any sense of comfort. Walls, bare and unyielding, absorbed every whispered breath and clink of metal handcuffs. Ethan sat rigid, the chill seeping into his bones as if the air itself conspired against him. Silence stretched between him and the two investigators until one finally broke it, sliding a tablet across the metal table with a deliberate calm. The screen illuminated the small, cramped room with an enhanced image of his tattoo, sharp lines, vivid colors, details no one had noticed before. The serpent coiled not just around his forearm but encased a hidden pattern within its scales, an intricate design that now glared back at him with unforgiving clarity. Ethan's eyes locked onto the image, and for a moment, disbelief etched itself across his features. His breath hitched, shallow and uneven, as if the air had suddenly thickened, pressing down on his chest. "No, that can't be right," he murmured, voice barely more than a rasp. Denial fought fiercely beneath the surface, but the evidence was undeniable. The investigators watched him, noting how his fingers twitched involuntarily, nails digging into the cold steel of the table. His mind raced backward, scrambling to reconstruct the memory of the tattoo's origin. A detail he had long buried, convinced it would never betray him. But there it was, glaring like a beacon from the screen. A faint, almost imperceptible symbol woven into the serpent's tail. A mark he had thought erased, a signature he never intended to reveal. It was the missing link, the forgotten piece that shattered every alibi, every carefully crafted lie. Suddenly, the room felt smaller, the air heavier. Ethan's world narrowed to that glowing image, and the realization hit him with the force of a hammer blow. The weight of years, of secrets long guarded, crashed down in an instant. His face paled, muscles slackening as the facade of control crumbled away. The hard edges of his resolve softened, revealing the raw vulnerability beneath. Tears welled unbidden, blurring his vision as the emotional dam broke. He swallowed hard, trying to stem the tide of despair, but it was futile. The tattoo, once a symbol of identity, defiance, even pride, now transformed into the emblem of his downfall. It was the silent witness to every misstep, every shadowed transaction, every whispered betrayal. His hands trembled as he reached up, almost instinctively, to touch the arm that had betrayed him. The skin beneath the serpent's coils felt foreign, a landscape marked by past decisions he could no longer outrun. Each scale seemed to pulse with accusation, a permanent brand of guilt etched into flesh. The investigators remained silent, allowing the moment to stretch. There was no need for words. The tattoo had spoken volumes. Ethan's shoulders sagged, the fight drained from him, replaced by a hollow resignation that echoed louder than any confession. The room held its breath, bearing witness to the collapse of a man who had once been a ghost, now laid bare by the very mark he thought hidden. In that stark interrogation room, the tattoo was no longer just ink on skin. It was the story of his unraveling, a symbol forever entwined with the truth that had finally surfaced. The courtroom buzzed with a tense energy that crackled beneath the polished wood and cold marble. Spectators leaned forward, eyes fixed on Ethan as he sat in the defendant's chair, his tattoo exposed under the harsh glare of the overhead lights. It was no longer just a curious mark. It had become the key that unlocked the entire mystery. The prosecution's lead attorney rose with a measured calm, unfolding a series of photographs that showed the tattoo in vivid detail, matching it unmistakably to the image captured on a hidden security camera near the scene of the theft. Every word from the prosecution sliced through the quiet like a sharpened blade. They spoke of the tattoo as a signature, a living fingerprint that tethered Ethan to the crime. "This is not merely a coincidence," the attorney declared, voice steady yet charged with conviction. "This mark, etched permanently on his skin, places him at the scene. It is the indelible proof that our defendant left behind, a trail he thought invisible, but one that ultimately betrayed him." The jury's eyes flickered between Ethan's face and the compelling evidence displayed before them, caught in the gravity of the moment. Then, just as the prosecution reached the crescendo of their argument, a commotion stirred near the back of the courtroom. The painting, the very masterpiece stolen in the dead of night, was brought forward, carefully unrolled and unveiled on a stand for all to see. Its vibrant colors seemed to burn brighter under the scrutiny of the law. The gallery's curator, called as a witness, recounted how the artwork had been recovered from an abandoned warehouse, hidden behind crates and dust but unharmed. The painting's safe return was a silent rebuke to Ethan's attempt to erase the crime, a visual testament to the truth clawing its way back from the shadows. When the judge finally took the bench, the courtroom hushed into reverent silence. He looked down at Ethan with a mixture of sternness and somber reflection. "This case is a stark reminder," he intoned, "that no mark, no matter how concealed, can shield one from the consequences of their actions. Justice is not a matter of chance or luck. It is a pursuit of truth, relentless and unwavering." His voice carried the weight of the law but also the human toll beneath it all. The defendant's choices have left scars beyond his skin's scars on the community's trust, on the integrity of art, and on the very fabric of our society. Outside the courtroom, the story of the tattoo thief rippled through the city like wildfire. News outlets clamored for interviews, and social media buzzed with speculation and outrage. Some saw Ethan as a cunning criminal undone by a careless mistake. Others viewed him as a tragic figure, a man ensnared by circumstances beyond his control, marked forever by a symbol that told his story unwillingly. The tattoo became a cultural touchstone, a visual shorthand for the complex intersection of identity, guilt, and justice. When the sentencing was announced, the room seemed to hold its breath once more. The judge's voice, clear and unwavering, declared Ethan's fate. Years behind bars, a sentence that balanced punishment with the possibility of redemption. It was a verdict that acknowledged the severity of the crime, but also the humanity of the man who bore its mark. Ethan's shoulders stiffened at the final words, the weight of the sentence settling over him like the cold ink etched into his skin. In that moment, the courtroom was not just a place of judgment. It was a mirror reflecting the enduring struggle between the choices we make and the consequences that follow. In the weeks that followed Ethan's capture, the museum transformed from a sanctuary of art into a fortress of vigilance. Its halls, once lined with velvet ropes and subtle alarms, now thrummed with the pulse of advanced surveillance systems. Infrared sensors traced every shadow, while motion detectors mapped even the slightest tremor in the air. Security personnel, once relying on intuition and experience, were retrained to interpret a new language of risk, one written not only in cameras, but in the encrypted data streams that flowed invisibly through the building's veins. The museum had become more than a gallery. It was a digital citadel, a testament to the lengths institutions would go to protect their treasures from the cunning of a single man. The police, too, found themselves at the forefront of a technological renaissance. Ethan's tattoos, cryptic symbols inked with painstaking detail, had become an unexpected key to solving crimes that once seemed impenetrable. Law enforcement agencies began integrating enhanced footage analysis that could detect and interpret body marks in real time, transforming what was once an overlooked detail into a vital piece of forensic evidence. Algorithms were trained to recognize unique patterns etched into skin, linking suspects to crime scenes with a precision that blurred the line between art and science. This innovation empowered officers to anticipate movements, decode intentions, and map criminal networks by following the trails inked upon their bodies. But this new scrutiny rippled through the underworld like a shockwave. Criminals who had long worn tattoos as emblems of identity and allegiance now faced a stark choice: preserve their marks or erase their histories. Tattoo removal clinics saw a surge in clandestine visits, as hardened felons and petty thieves alike sought to vanish from the digital gaze that could identify them in a single frame. The process was painful, both physically and symbolically. A shedding of skin that carried with it the loss of belonging, of stories told in ink. In the dimly lit backrooms of underground parlors, the hum of lasers whispered a silent rebellion against a world that had turned their own symbols into weapons against them. The irony of Ethan's legacy was not lost on anyone who followed the story. The thief, once a shadow slipping through the cracks, had unwittingly ignited a revolution that reshaped the very fabric of the criminal world he inhabited. His signature mark, initially a badge of audacity and defiance, became a catalyst for change, forcing law enforcement to innovate and criminals to adapt. It was a paradox writ large. A single symbol, born from one man's choices, now dictated the rhythms of an entire clandestine industry. The underworld, once shrouded in mystery and codes known only to its own, was being rewritten in the language of technology and identity. This phenomenon extended beyond mere security measures. It redefined power dynamics within the underground networks. Tattoo artists, once craftsmen of secret languages, found themselves couriers of risk, their inked designs scrutinized as much as the faces they adorned. Smugglers and informants learned to cloak themselves not only in silence but in anonymity, peeling away the layers that had once marked them as members of unseen societies. The cultural significance of tattoos, intertwined with heritage and loyalty, collided headfirst with the cold logic of surveillance and control. In this new era, the symbol etched onto Ethan's skin transcended its origin as a personal defiance. It became an icon of transformation, an emblem of how a single act could ripple outward, forcing institutions and individuals alike to confront the evolving nature of identity, trust, and security. The museum's fortified walls, the police's digital eyes, and the criminal's fading marks all told the same story: that in a world where every detail could betray, survival depended on the ability to adapt, to hide, and sometimes to erase oneself entirely. As the dust settled on the aftermath of Ethan's trial, the underground industry found itself forever altered. The symbol he bore was no longer just the thief's signature. It had become a mirror reflecting the fragile boundaries between law and lawlessness, visibility and obscurity, permanence and erasure. In the interplay of ink and technology, of tradition and innovation, the legacy of one man's mark endured, not as a mere stain, but as a profound testament to the power of a single symbol to reshape the world around it. The serpent coils, an ancient emblem wound tight around the very essence of the story. It slithers through time, a silent witness to the rise and fall of ideals, a creature both revered and reviled. Its scales shimmer with contradiction, reflecting light and shadow alike, much like the man whose emblem it became. The serpent is no mere motif. It is transformation itself, shedding skin, leaving behind the past to embrace the unknown. It whispers of wisdom and temptation, of the delicate dance between creation and destruction, where every choice unravels a thread in the fabric of identity. Yet, within this grand tapestry of symbolism, the irony is piercing. The perfection that seems so unassailable, the flawless execution, the meticulous disguise, crumbled not under the weight of overwhelming force or glaring scrutiny, but on the smallest, most intimate detail. A single thread pulled loose, a moment of human fallibility exposed beneath the veneer of control. It is a reminder that no matter how high the pedestal, how pristine the mask, the fragile edifice of ego trembles where we least expect it. The grandeur of a life built on cunning and precision collapses quietly, like a whispered breath escaping into the void. In that collapse, there lies a profound meditation on identity itself. Who are we beneath the roles we play, the symbols we adopt? The ego, a construct so eager for permanence, stands as both architect and prisoner of its own downfall. It crafts illusions of strength and invincibility, yet these very illusions entangle it in an inescapable web. The downfall is not merely a loss of status or freedom, but a reckoning with the self, a confrontation with the shadows lurking behind the mask. It is a haunting reminder that the lines separating hero and villain, creator and destroyer, are as serpentine and shifting as the emblem itself. To you, watching now, this story is more than a tale of one man's rise and ruin. It is an invitation to look beyond the surface, to question the symbols you carry within, the identities forged in light and shadow. Perfection is an illusion, fragile and fleeting. It is in the cracks, the imperfections, that true humanity reveals itself. The serpent's coil is never-ending, a cycle of becoming and unbecoming, a testament that transformation is both our curse and our gift. As the final frame fades, remember that every symbol holds a story, and every story is a mirror. What do you see reflected back? In the echo of the serpent's silent hiss, find not just the end of a tale, but the beginning of your own reflection. A journey through the serpentine paths of identity, ego, and the unyielding truth of imperfection.